On one hand, as I go through life, I never really assume that people are trying to scam me or rip me off. On the other hand, I've been a business owner for a long time, so I've gotten really good at recognizing the warning signs that somebody's trying to get one over on me. And in this particular instance, I'm glad I listened to those warning signs because this customer was trying to stick me with a bill of almost $100,000 in damage done to his house. Now, before we get too far into the story, at the end of this video, there's a question that I have for you guys about some of my social media stuff, and I would appreciate your feedback. But we'll take care of that at the end of the video. Back to the story. Now, 14 months ago, this got started because a really nice guy was selling a massive mansion in Arden, North Carolina, and it was on some absolutely beautiful grounds. And if you know anything about Arden, North Carolina, you know that parts of it are pretty much the perfect mix of mountains and flat yards and beautiful views. So why he was wanting to sell his little slice of heaven, I have absolutely no idea. But the buyer wanted somebody to come in and do a septic, well, and plumbing inspection on the house, do a water test, and take a look at the water filtration system, and we were the company that the buyer hired to do that. And when we came in, almost everything looked okay, except based on the water test results, we recommended that they get a UV light, and because the pressure tank was about 12 days older than Methuselah, we recommended a new pressure tank as well. So the buyer of the house takes our recommendations, hands them over to the seller of the house, and says, hey, I'd like you to fix these things before I buy the house. And the seller hired us to do it because while we were doing the inspection, we developed a good rapport and relationship, and he liked us and we liked him, so we came in and did the repairs. Now, when we were done with the repairs, we do what we always do, which is take pictures and document. Those pictures get saved in the Google Drive. Now the job is done, we're paid, he's happy, he's gonna sell a house, make a whole bunch of money, everybody's happy, we go on our way, he moves to Florida, and the buyer moves into the house, and we don't hear anything for about 14 months. And then one day, our phone rings. And it's the buyer of the house. And he says, listen, my pressure tank has exploded. I need emergency service. Somebody's got to come out here right now. My house is flooded. And I'm like, okay, well, first things first, have you turned off the water so that the flooding doesn't continue? And he says, yes, of course I've done that. There's tons of water. The thing has exploded. I need you to come out here and look at it. Not a problem. We're on our way. So me and a supervisor, we jump in a truck, we head out there. Now, as soon as we pull up and step out of the truck, there's a big giant red warning flag that goes off. And that is, the new owner of this house comes out of his house to meet us. He's wearing a button-down shirt. That shirt has a pocket, and in that pocket is a cell phone with the camera pointed right at us, and the light is on, which makes me think I'm being recorded, which is fine. This is North Carolina. It's a one-party consent state. You can record anybody, and you don't have to tell them, just as long as you're part of the conversation too. Plus, we're in his home. Like, he should be able to record us while we're in his home. That seems fair. But if you're gonna record me, I'm gonna record you right back because that's fair too. So I took out my phone and set it on audio record and put it back in my pocket. Now we follow him inside the house and down the stairs and into the basement and to the utility closet that is where his pressure system is at. Now as we look inside this closet that houses his pressure system and everything else, it does look like something catastrophic has happened here because the UV light has been ripped off the wall. The tankless water heater is damaged. The main water line is broken. The water lines to his water filtration are broken. His water filtration housing is broken. There's a hole in the ceiling. The main sewer line for the house is completely busted. There's a 2x4 between two floor joists. That is broken, and one of the floor joists is cracked. Whatever happened, there was a lot of force here. And so I asked him, I said, well, what happened? And he says, I don't know. I was in the shower. I was taking a shower. All of a sudden, I hear this loud bang, and I completely lost water pressure. So I got out of the shower, I did a couple things, and about 2 hours later, I come down to the basement, my basement's flooding. And he turned off the water, which, good for him. We're like, well, did you change anything about the system after we installed it? He said, no, of course not. It's like, okay, and we're sitting there looking at things, and he just kind of slyly throws in, he's like, so, y'all's insurance will be paying for the damage, right? Now listen, I may have been born at night, but I wasn't born last night. And I know better than to answer dumbass questions like that, like, oh yeah, of course our insurance will pay for it. So what I said to him was, well, it really depends on what happened. We'll take a look at it. Now between you, me, and the interwebs, it's not looking good for us or our insurance. The system has blown apart. We may be on the hook for the repairs. So the supervisor and I are taking a really careful look at things, and one of the pieces of this system that we find is the high pressure relief valve. And the high pressure relief valve looks a little weird, and then we figured out in the outlet there's a cap. And to be honest with you, I've never seen a high pressure relief valve with a cap in it. It's like, why is there a cap there? Now, the high pressure relief valve is the device that is designed to prevent all of this from happening. If the pressure gets too great, it just blows out the high pressure relief valve. It may flood the basement, but it doesn't launch the pressure tank into the ceiling and start breaking things. It just floods. By the way, I'll do a video on if you have a well in a pressure tank, why you should have your high pressure relief valve plumbed to the outside of your house. So stay tuned, that video will be coming soon. In any event, this high pressure relief valve has a plug in it, which is weird. And we don't know why. Now we go back and look at the pictures from where we did the install, and we're able to verify when we did the install, there wasn't a plug in the high pressure relief valve. It's like weird. But right now, the most important thing to do is get this guy some water back so that he can take a shower and go about his life. We'll figure out who's at fault later. So the supervisor and I go and install a new pressure tank and fix the main water line in and repair the tankless hot water heater and fix the sewer pipe and fix the filtration. We get him all fixed up. And I say, hey, can you do me a favor and go upstairs and make sure everything's working all right? He says, not a problem. He goes upstairs. We hear water running. System seems to be working right. Nothing's leaking. He comes back down. He says, well, the pressure is quite a bit lower. Do you think you could turn it up? That right there was the clue that unraveled the entire thing, because we had never told him you could turn up the pressure on a well system. See, the pressure is controlled by a pressure switch. And depending on what pressure you want, you'll get the appropriate pressure switch. So if you want between 30 and 50 pounds of pressure, or between 40 and 60, or between 60 and 80, you would just install the appropriate pressure switch. You wouldn't turn it up. Now, there are 2 screws and nuts on each of those screws that adjust the cut in and cut out pressure of the system, but you shouldn't mess with those, and we definitely never mess with those because it's impossible to really tell what you've done. But we've now figured out he's mucked with the pressure. Now we just have to be able to prove it. And my supervisor is way ahead of me, and he's going to get that pressure switch. And whenever he gets that pressure switch, we compare it to a new out-of-the-box pressure switch. It should be identical because that's the way we installed it. But what we found was that the nut that controls when the pressure cuts off at is way down. And that means he's turned the pressure way up. We have no idea how much, but that nut is displaced by more than ½ an inch. He's really jacked up his pressure, and it suddenly has become all clear to us exactly what has happened. And I'll go ahead and tell you. He wanted more pressure, so he went to the internet box, said, how do I get more pressure? And some numbnuts on a YouTube video probably showed him how to tighten the screw, so he did, and just gave himself all kinds of pressure like there would be no ramifications in his real life for that. He just didn't think ahead, whatever. So he's gone and given himself all kinds of pressure. But how did the nut on the high pressure relief valve get there? My supervisor figured that out too. He said, listen, probably what happened is as he turned up the pressure, it started leaking right there. And instead of stopping, he just went to the store, got a plug, put a plug in it, and no leak, no problem. So he literally created the scenario where he super pressurized his pressure tank and caused it to explode. Now, as the system sat there with the pressure going up and down and up and down, and these pressures being well beyond what the system is designed to handle, eventually, where the fiberglass tank attaches to the plastic base, it just suffered a catastrophic failure and more or less rocketed up inside his utility closet and broke everything in its path. So all of a sudden, we're very happy because we're not on the hook for this, and we get paid for what we just fixed. So I pulled the customer aside, and I explained exactly what happened. I was like, look, not trying to point any fingers, but we pretty much know that you adjusted the nut on the screw that adjusts the pressure. And he's like, yeah, you know, I saw that on the internet, so I went in and changed it. I said, well, that's the entire thing that caused this pretty much, except you also capped the high pressure relief valve to where the safety device was rendered useless. He was like, oh, I had no idea it did that. I said, before you go messing with plumbing systems or well systems or pressure systems inside your house, probably talk to somebody first. And I said, so our insurance will not be paying for this. Now he looked a little disappointed, but kind of hard to argue with, and his recording is still going, as is mine. So a couple minutes later, we're cleaning up all our tools and getting ready to leave, and he comes down and he says, can I get you to do me a favor? I I said, well, it depends. What is it? He says, can you write a letter that says that this entire thing was caused by a faulty pressure tank? That way I can get the manufacturer of the pressure tank to pay for the damages. And he goes on to explain the extent of the damages. Apparently every room in the basement floor of this house is flooded. The flooring, the hardwood flooring, the carpet, the baseboards, a good section of the drywall, all that's going to have to be fixed and replaced and repaired, and that's going to get really, really pricey. And he's estimating that it's going to be somewhere around $100,000. And he explained that he really doesn't want to have his homeowner's insurance pay for it because that's going to affect his rates. I was like, hold up for a second. First, you tried to stick us and our insurance company with this and pretty much affect our rates for a long time and cost us a ton of money. But when your plan of doing that fell apart, your backup plan is to try to get us to lie on an official statement so that you can sue the manufacturer of the pressure tank to get them to pay for the damages that were wholeheartedly caused by your ignorance and mucking about. No, I'm not that crooked. They just kind of looked at me, kind of in shock it looked like, that I wouldn't write him his letter. And he went, all right, and left. How freaking crooked are people these days? Specifically this guy. So to wrap all this up, I'm just going to give a couple words of advice to homeowners and business owners alike. When anybody's done with a job, whether you're the guy that installed it or the guy that paid to have it installed, take pictures of it and document what it is. Go ahead and check and make sure that your contractors have insurance. And when somebody calls you out for a repair, double check that they didn't muck with the system before trying to stick you with the bill. Now, I mentioned I had a question for you about social media, and that's exactly where we're at right now. As my popularity continues to grow on some of these social media platforms, more and more companies are coming out of the woodwork and wanting to sponsor videos and pay me money to present to you a 15, 30, or 60-second commercial sort of in the middle of the video. And I would like to know how you guys feel about creators doing that in the videos. On one hand, it's nice for us, the creators, to be able to make a little bit of extra money, but on the other hand, it does affect your viewing interest, and I would like to know what you guys think about it. Are you okay with the creators making a little bit of extra money? Do you just fast forward through the ad? Do you watch the ad? Or does the ad just really piss you off and annoy you? If you would please let me know, because I'm starting to get more offers and I'd kind of like to make some more money. Let me know in the comments. Now, as always, I'd like to thank you guys for watching the video. I really enjoyed making it. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Please, to support the channel, hit the like and subscribe button and interact some way in the comments. I hope y'all have an absolutely wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.